Hey everyone, welcome to week 74. Today is day 1, today's Monday, and the theme for this week is going to be a comeback theme. We're going to do What Should I Paint this week, version 2.0, where you guys suggest what I should paint, and the suggestion for today is, so we'll see how we do. Okay, let's get started. This is Monday. This is our first day of our new week. Which means that there's a new theme, and the theme for this week is going to be, what should I paint? And the reason that I'm doing a what should I paint version 2.0, well, first of all, because I enjoy it, because I love when people suggest things to paint. It obligates me to find possibilities that are outside the realm of my understanding. So at least knowing that somebody else has the reins in terms of subject matter, I have to tread into territories that are not familiar to me. I mean, at first glance, I feel that they're unfamiliar, but you're going to notice that we're going to start on the right foot today, because even though we chose these things at random, I'm starting to believe that some people know me already, and they are suggesting things that they know that I would enjoy painting. And this one was right up my alley. This is something that I don't usually do, but that I thoroughly enjoyed. Let me start by saying that we wanted to do a version 2.0 of this week because last week when I was painting the Tara Booth shirt, I mean, it's so enjoyable when you can give yourself the chance, when you can grant yourself the possibility to experience somebody else's work through your own work, that I thought, I want some of that. I need some of that feeling. I'm craving for that. And what better way to do it than a version 2.0 of What Should I Paint? So we're going to start with something that's very close to home with this first painting. And the first suggestion that was chosen randomly was sent by Jeremy Sorrell, who is a fantastic artist, by the way. Jeremy's work is absolutely awesome. I'm not sure if I should name the people that send me the suggestions because I don't know if they would want to keep their names private, but I'm sure Jeremy's cool with me sharing this particular one. And again, check out Jeremy's work. I think he's absolutely amazing. So Jeremy said that I should paint any in caps, Batman villain. And that is super, super cool. Because I know you guys have heard me say that I'm a huge Hellboy fan. I love Hellboy as a character. But if there is one character that has always been part of my life, always, is Batman. I've always felt that he is the coolest character in all of the universes, DC, Marvel, any other independent comic universes. I absolutely adore Batman. I think that even though I enjoy all these fantastical characters that have powers that are otherworldly, just the knowledge that Batman is a regular guy, well, as regular as a billionaire can be, but is basically a regular guy that's just super agile and super intelligent. He's one of the few heroes, and for sure the biggest one, in all of comic books that is just simply a man. He is a human being, and he's deeply troubled. He's broken. He's absolutely broken. So when Jeremy suggests any Batman villain, I mean, the easiest one has to be Joker. Joker is like the biggest villain ever in comic books history. He's the first supervillain, so how could you not think Joker? If given a chance to just say one Batman villain, Joker is just number one. But I was telling myself, okay, but there's other Batman villains that would be super cool to paint. Clayface, for example, I've always found him amazing. I think Riddler is awesome. I think Penguin is awesome too. But here I realized, well, not so much with Clayface, but with Riddler, Penguin, and Joker, I realized, maybe I'm letting this love that I have for the 1966 Batman TV show surface, and my mind is going directly towards these characters. Because even though it sounds weird, here in Colombia in the early 80s, we got, I guess, once a week, and I'm not even sure that we got the whole series, like the 3 seasons of the 66 to 68 Batman show, but we had a bunch of episodes. Don't ask me, when they were airing them, maybe Sunday afternoons. And when I was little, Colombian TV had 3 channels. 2 of them were like big channels, and the other channel would be like public television. So, it wasn't that interesting, to be honest. But in those 2 other channels, we were getting a bunch of anime, and we got super cool shows from like 60s and 70s. They were airing in the 80s, and of course they were dubbed, and the Batman TV show was one of them. So I had no idea of understanding that this was a 60s show when I was a kid in the early 80s. I thought it was absolutely contemporary. And
I had no clue about the campiness of that show. I thought it was just cool. I didn't get any of the puns. I mean, most of them would get lost in translation, to be honest. I thought it was just Batman kicking ass. And I thought the Adam West Batman was just the coolest ever. So for me, I had this very distorted idea because as a kid, I just didn't understand how sort of B-movie this television show was. I honestly thought it was absolutely amazing. And I love the interpretations of all of the characters there. All of them. I loved Batman and Robin. I loved the Batcave, the Batcomputer. I loved the Batmobile. I loved Alfred. I loved all the villains. And my favorite villain had to be Joker. It just had to be. I knew nothing about Batman. At that time, I was probably, 6, 7 years old. I knew nothing about Batman. I mean, aside from some of the comic books that my brother had brought with him from the US, those old Jim Aparo comic books, I really didn't know anything. And I think the 1966 Batman was the one that introduced me to, who Batman was as a character. So I didn't know anything about Joker. I could just sense that he was maybe a bit more powerful than the rest of the villains that were in that show. And they were all like one-note villains. But Joker, even if they were dubbed, he had really bad puns with, I'm sure, terrible translations. But there was something clearly off about him. You could tell that this guy, even though he was a slime ball, he was like a greasy sleazeball. He was also just maniacal. There was something wrong with him. So the Cesar Romero, who's the actor who interpreted Joker for the 1966 Batman, I think that when I close my eyes, my mind goes immediately to him as the Joker. And this is really weird because one of my favorite movies ever has to be the Tim Burton Batman. And Jack Nicholson's Joker in the first Burton movie is just classic. It's absolutely incredible. And after that, you get Heath Ledger, who is also amazing. And you get Joaquin Phoenix, who is absolutely incredible. We're going to skip over Jared Leto's Joker because, yeah. So there's amazing Jokers, but I don't know why my mind just goes directly to Cesar Romero in the 66 Batman. So for those of you who don't know, Joker is like a super complex character because his backstory, it's actually murky and vague. It's quite unknown. I mean, they've kept it like that over the years, which is really cool. So it's kind of like Wolverine's age, that we don't really know exactly how old Wolverine is. He's just like this eternal human being. In the case of Joker, we don't really know his identity. I mean, it's been kind of accepted ever since the 89 Tim Burton movie that Joker is Jack Napier and that he was working for the mob and that he's responsible for Batman's parents' death. But all of that is super weird. And the justification for that comes from like a single page or a single panel, if I'm remembering correctly, of A Killing Joke, which is probably the coolest of all of Joker's stories throughout the years. Brian Boland's work is absolutely masterful. Alan Moore's story and the visual storytelling is just absolute genius. The pacing of it is just completely brilliant. So if I had to suggest a single story so that people would understand where Joker comes from, Killing Joke has to be it. And if you could read the noir version, the black and white version, I mean, I don't want to throw shade on like late 80s, 90s coloring, but I don't know. For me, comic books, aside from like Dave Stewart, who colors Mike Mignola in Hellboy, and Dave is an absolute genius. But for me, comic books are just meant to be seen in black and white. And for me, the best storytellers are the ones that don't really rely on color to tell a story, but that they actually construct the story based on graphic values. So if you want to get a digital edition or if you want to buy the noir edition of The Killing Joke, I super recommend it. I think it's one of those classic books. I think it's timeless. I think the art is incredible. But as I was saying, there is a panel or a page, forgive me if I'm misremembering this, where Joker says that he doesn't really recall his origin. Like, he doesn't really recall where he comes from, and that he actually likes it that way. He likes the possibilities of not remembering. So it's a very nice and elegant way to just say, this is a madman, this is a completely psychotic villain, and why would we trust his origin story if it was told directly by him? Like, he could just make up anything. He's never to be trusted. So it's a really nice way to tell us, the readers and the viewers, that we don't really know. We don't really know who he is. We don't really know what he's about. Historically, there are constants. He is the original Red Hood, which is really cool. He does fall into this acid tank, and that's what gives him that white kind of burnt skin and that green hair. So there are things that remain constant that we've held on to sort of explain his appearance. But a lot of things have changed during the years. Some of them have nothing to do with the telling of his stories and have more to do with censorship. So if you guys don't know, when he was first introduced, he was like a psycho. He was like an absolute lunatic. But as soon as the Comic Code Authority was introduced, they realized, no, we can't have Joker be this kind of senseless, mindless killing machine. And he was put to sleep for the longest time. And for example, in the 66 Batman show, that's why you get a sort of milder, kind of clownish Joker that is full of bad puns and that just makes all these like absurd practical jokes, because they were trying to see if they could reshape the Joker into something that was less of a psychopath. But in the 70s, he was reintroduced. I actually have the facsimile of Batman 251. I don't have an original 251. Those are like super expensive. But I always wanted to have this issue because, one, it's Neil Adams, and we've talked about this before. Neil Adams is Batman. I think it's the coolest Batman ever, ever, ever. I think Neil Adams is one of the most amazing comic book artists in all of comic books history. And this is where Joker is kind of reintroduced again as a psycho who is eventually going to become Batman's nemesis, the Moriarty to Sherlock Holmes. And he's going to have, like Batman, this super acute intelligence. So when deciding what villain I was going to paint, first thought that came into my mind, as I said, was like, it has to be Joker. And then I told myself, no, come on, don't go for the easy one. That's like low-hanging fruit. And I went through all the other villains, and then I went back to Joker, and I was like, no, I got to do Joker. I mean, come on. If you have a single chance to do a Batman villain, it just has to be Joker. So in my mind, I started just going through all these visions of Joker and interpretations of Joker that have been super important for me my whole life. And as I said, I landed on Cesar Romero's 66 Joker. And then I thought of the reintroduction that Neil Adams did of the long-faced Joker, reclaiming that, psycho side of him. I obviously also went through probably the second story that I would suggest, which is a completely different story because it has to do with Arkham Asylum, which, by the way, Arkham Asylum, I think it was introduced as Arkham Hospital or something like that, comes only a couple of issues after 251, after this Neil Adams reintroduction of the Joker, because they were saying, okay, this guy is mentally ill and we have to put him in an institution, and that institution is what becomes Arkham Asylum, which is where, most of Batman villains are kept, and it's an incredibly dark place. And the Grant Morrison, Dave McKean graphic novel is incredible. I shouldn't even say this, but if you have any love for comic books, you have to get that. I think there was a reissue just a couple of years ago commemorating an anniversary, and it's beautifully printed. It's absolutely brilliant. I think that if you've enjoyed graphic novels and you don't have Arkham Asylum, do yourself a favor, go get it. So if I can promote 2 books today, they have to be Killing Joke. If you can get the noir version, the black and white version, get that one. You won't regret it. And if you can get the new reprint of Arkham Asylum, absolutely amazing. So I think that I had those 2 stories kind of fluttering in my brain, those 2 versions of the Joker. I obviously had, the cinematic versions of the Joker also, and I was trying to put all of them in a blender. And ultimately, I found this amazing Cesar Romero photograph that I based this painting on. And I said, okay, I could tweak this, reference photo, and I could try to bring together a bunch of the things that I love about Joker. I do like that he is this psycho. In the same way that Batman believes in never killing anyone, although that's arguable with the ending of the Killing Joke. In the same way that Batman protects life and he believes that he's never going to kill anyone, although that's BS because he beats the crap out of people. Beats them to a pulp. But he just leaves them with this tiny bit of pulse. And he's like, yeah, I'm fine. I'm fine with that. I could live with that. So Batman is effed up. Batman is completely effed up. But in the same way, he has this distorted belief that he's never going to kill anyone, but he's going to beat the crap out of every single person that he deems to be criminal. For the Joker, life means nothing. He can kill people in a hospital, the elderly, he can kill kids. He's a complete psychopath, but he understands that there are tons of things that he shares with Batman. And he is just in love with Batman. He has this deep infatuation with Batman. His sole purpose in life is to screw with Batman. And the coolest thing is that Batman is so broken that he's not immune to the Joker. Like, the Joker always gets to him. Always. And I've always loved the fact that Joker is honestly this frail, kind of gauntly human being, but his power comes from him just not caring about anything. Aside from having some feelings for Harley and thinking of Batman as this equal partner, wanting Batman to be a worthy adversary, Joker doesn't care about anything or anyone. So that detachment, coupled with kind of like his sleazy persona, I was like, yeah, I'm going to try to get those two together. I'm going to tweak all this multiverse of Jokers and see if I could get to a single Joker that I feel kind of encompasses everything that I love about him. So this is what I came up with, and it was a blast. I have to be honest with you guys, I love painting, and I'm completely attached to traditional painting history. But whenever I have the chance to just kind of not put that to the side, because I think that all of art, all of painting, all of comic books, all of illustration is just one big history if you really think about it. If you let it be, it's just one big thing, and it's an amazing place where you can just gather so much information and you can collect so much knowledge and inspiration that I don't know, whenever I feel that I can tap into the things that I loved when I was a little kid, and that are obviously things that have remained to be true, even though I'm not a comic book artist, even though I'm not an illustrator anymore. Although I wouldn't be mad if people saw this Joker and, they felt like, okay, he could do a comic book cover. Like, I'd be totally fine with that. I'm not shamelessly trying to tell Jim Lee to maybe consider me for a painted cover of anything. But if Jim thinks, it could be cool, then I'm pretty much up for it. But as I was saying, when I can combine all the things that I love about the history that I have with these fantastical characters and with amazing visual storytelling and images and illustration, if I can combine all of that into, doing paintings like this, I adore this. I think it's a blessing. I think these are the moments where this doesn't feel like a job. This is just the thing that I love to do. This is just the thing that I was meant to do. So whenever I have a chance to do images like these, I'm like, hell yeah, I'm going to take the opportunity and just have fun with it. So thank you, Jeremy, for the suggestion. Hopefully it's a familiar Joker. It's not a super new take on the Joker. I think that there is a Joker DNA that has to remain faithful throughout the years. I've kind of read about the new sort of darker Joker, the comeback of the Joker, the one with the stitched face. I guess I still like my more old school Jokers. So that's a cool one. Greg Capullo's work is obviously amazing. But I don't know. I gravitate more towards my childhood, I guess. You like what you grew up with. So that's going to be it for today. Remember, tomorrow, Spanish Tuesdays. Brush up on your Spanish. We'll see you tomorrow, where we'll see the suggestions somebody else had for us. And we'll see how I accommodate myself and how I try to make those paintings my own. So that's going to be tomorrow. See you guys. Love you. Bye.